All right. Hey, Yusuf, how you doing today?
Hey Eddie, thanks for having me on.
Excellent. It's a pleasure. Today we're going to talk about your sales development as a service startup plan so that buyers viewing this service offer in the Cloutos marketplace can decide whether they want to invite you to an interview for their service request or not. I have three questions that I want to cover today, so let's get started. Number one, it is what are the components of this service offer, Yusuf?
Sure. So our objective is how can we get the most relevant sales sequence possible as efficiently as possible, and we do this by kind of working backwards, sitting there with you and thinking through what your perfect message looks like, and then trying to scale that up across the most relevant people in your target market. And so we do this within the first week. We get this draft back to you and we get your feedback. We're doing this through a team that consists of a campaign manager, an account manager, which honestly oftentimes is myself. I'm heavily involved in the campaigns that we write and work closely with our clients in Slack, a copywriter, a deliverability team, and they're focused on one, we have custom servers that we send our emails from. We don't use Gmail, we don't use Outlook. This is part of our Zevenue secret sauce. And then the research team as well, which has access to a bunch of databases. There's lead researchers involved, and then they'll export the data that we need to write the campaigns that are going to be the most effective. And on this package, we have this at 1,000 leads per month. These are new leads that we're adding into sequences. Each week,
Great.
we'll send this over to you and give you an update on this is how the performance was. This is what we're expecting from our output next week, and these are the changes that we're going to make based on what we've seen in the past week.
Awesome. 1,000 leads a month. And can you tell me a little bit of the platforms or technologies or tools that you use to deliver this service offer?
Yeah, a big thing with this package is the use of multiple databases. I think the big difference between our approach and the typical individual SDR is our lead research is centralized. And so for each lead that we're looking for, we're testing this against multiple databases. So we'll have access to Apollo, Lucia, SalesNav, several together that we tie in together in Clay. And so if one lead is not present on the first database, we'll check them on the second database. And we'll do this for a series of them. In terms of other tools, we use Instantly to send our emails. I mentioned we use custom servers for all our outbound, and we'll connect with whatever CRM you're using.
Excellent. Now, my second question is what is normally the situation when you sign up for clients or sign up clients for this service offer rather than another offer that you have in your portfolio? Basically, who is a good fit for this service?
Yeah, so we have two offers, and this one is built more for the earlier stage team, and that's why it's on the startup plan. And we work best with startups that are looking to power their outbound, get started very quickly, and really validate test email as a channel without having to rely on an SDR who's probably going to be more expensive and probably going to be less experienced. And so that this is the ideal situation, working with a startup that's at that stage. We do work better with, or I should say, we don't work with startups that haven't closed any deals yet in the past. But if you have
Excellent.
closed at least a few deals, and have some sense of who your target market is, doesn't have to be fully refined. Part of our offer is that we'll run and test the validation for you and test your messaging against different segments to figure out who you should be working with, who you should be speaking to more often. But if you have closed a few deals, you have a sense of who your ICP is or who you want to be testing towards. We've done good work with startups in e-commerce, in HR, machine learning, healthcare. We're industry agnostic, but we do focus on SaaS startups for the most part.
Those are great examples. Thank you. All
Thanks.
right, my last question for you today is what can a client normally expect in the first 120 days of buying this service?
So I'll go step by step. In the first week, we'll get you onboarded, and this is a very important step. This is it cannot be done through a Google form or a type form or something like that. We have to sit down together for an hour and walk through really the entire process, understand your business, understand your target market. So we'll be able to write copy just as well as you do, better than you do on your behalf. And in that first week, we will come back to you with draft messaging for 2 to 3 different segments that we want to tackle up front. It could be differentiated by industry, job title, whatever the first test we want to run is. Later on, we'll run more testing on top of it.
Okay.
We'll, in that time where we're warming up domains, we're running all the lead research across all the databases that we spoke of. If you have a specific database that's, let's say you're working with real estate and we need a separate database, we'll get access to that. And that's happening during weeks 1 and weeks 2. And while all the lead research is happening on between days 10 and day 14 of our engagement, we are ready to launch. So that means all 4 points that we talked about are checked off. We have approval from you, we have the green light, and we're sending our messaging. And from that point, we're entering a week by week cadence where it's the reporting that we spoke about, where I myself will send the reporting to you and say, this is what we needed to do. This is what we're changing as a result based on the numbers. And then we'll take any inputs from you as well. And we do run month to month contracts. So you do have the option to sort of opt out at any point. This is the thing that I think a lot of startups need the flexibility for, which they don't get from an individual hire sometimes.
Right.
And I'd say days 60 to 90 is the real test for performance, because that's when our sending is fully ramped up, and we can ramp up quicker than Gmail and Outlook because we use separate servers. But this is really like the base and the floor for expectations, where we get better and better each week. But I think day 60 to 90 is the real test, where everything has now been ramped up. We've gotten 6 weeks of iterations at this point. Servers are fully loaded, and that's I think the real litmus test. Between days 90 and 120, we're taking off at this point. Things should be swelled by the time day 120 rolls around.
Running smooth. Excellent. Thank you so much, Yusuf, for providing more details about your sales development as a services startup plan. And this will help buyers viewing the service offer and the CloudSales Marketplace decide whether they want to invite you for an interview for this service request or their service request or not. Thank you again, Yusuf. I'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, Eddie.